Yeah.
50. All right. Good. So okay. Hello, everybody.
Hi there.
Rebecca?
Hi. Yes, this is Rebecca.
Yeah.
Sorry for the delay, everybody. We were just getting the computer up and running. It's being a little bit slow this morning. Sorry about that, but
There's got a bit of background noise. I don't know if someone's shuffling paper or something.
Yeah. I know. No one's understand that right now.
Sounds like somebody's on speaker.
so my recommendation is for those of you that are calling in on your phones, if you have a mute function, just you can just use that to help keep the sound, the background noise. Just sometimes the phone will pick up everything.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect. So first, welcome.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so first, welcome everybody to Junior Achievement Economics for Success at MRU Training. I have quite a few people here in the room with me, 8, 9 or so, including myself, and I also have Lisa Gwynn here. She's our Director of Programs for Junior Achievement, so she's sitting in on this training so she can brush up her Economics for Success skills. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to share with those of you who don't have the workbook. I'm going to share you guys the PDF file so that you can follow along, and then I can send you the book if you don't have it. I think most of you should have it, but there might be a couple that don't. So for those, I'm just going to do that right now.
Is that something you can email? Because I'm having problems getting things. I can't access the files, the meeting files you sent in the meeting notice, and this is better.
What I'm going to do is we're going to share it using the WebEx software.
I can't get onto WebEx either. So.
Oh, okay. All right. So some firewalls will sometimes block this. Who is this that's needing the book to be emailed?
Ada. ADA, Ada.
Okay.
All right. This is May as well that I cannot open the.
I can mute them, but then if they want to speak, I can. All right. So there's a lot of background noise coming off of somebody's phone. I'm not sure exactly whose it is. But,
what the hell?
I thought you went up north.
Oh, did you? You spoke of that.
All right. So what I'm going to get you guys to do is, unless you have a question that you're wanting to ask or a statement that you need to make, if I can get you to all mute yourself, either using your phone or using software.
It's like, ouch! Yeah, I didn't even know you were doing anything at first. What the hell? What was it?
Okay. All right. So for those of you who are able to access the webinar software, I want you guys to go up to the file and then transfer menu in just 1 second. And then you guys are going to be able to download the PDF file for the workbooks.
Yeah, I'm on the audio.
All right. So for those of you who are joining us by using the WebEx software and don't have your Economics for Success workbooks, please just go to the file and then transfer menu. So your file menu at the top of the screen, transfer, and then you will be able to download the program guide and workbook. Anybody who doesn't have the books or doesn't have the WebEx software and are unable to download it, please just make a little note in the chat, and I will make sure that you receive the book before we go into the next. All right? All right. All right. So we're ready to get started. The first thing that we're going to go through for the agenda today, of course, I'm Rebecca with Junior Achievement. So we're going to share a little bit of information on Junior Achievement itself, and then we're going to talk a little bit about classroom management tips and things that you can do while you're in the class. And then we're also going to go through the actual program materials. So we should be starting to go through the actual program materials at about 10:45 or 10:50, so that you guys have an idea of when that's going to be. All right, so I'm just waiting for a slideshow to come up here for you guys. All right, so here is the JA Economics for Success training slideshow. For those of you who aren't seeing what I'm explaining, just make sure you have a pen and paper with you. You're able to take some notes. A lot of the stuff that I'll go through, I'll make sure that I'm explaining it thoroughly so that if you're not seeing the visual, you can at least follow along and understand what we're talking about. So, all right. So, like I said, this is the agenda that we're going to be going through for today. Now, meet JASE's elementary middle school team. Those of you in the room, you can see that I'm here, and you also just saw Kimberly, who just came in a second ago. But for those of you who are watching the webinar, I'm Rebecca, and Kimberly is my colleague, and we will both be at MRU, whatever day it is that you happen to be there, and we will be there to answer any questions, help you out, and we're basically just coordinating and organizing the event. So just so that you guys know what we look like, find us. All right, so a little bit about Junior Achievement. Junior Achievement has been around for quite a long time, and it was invented by a gentleman named Horace Moses in Springfield, Massachusetts in 1919, so quite a few years ago. And he wanted students to have a way to gain practical business experience. In 1959, Junior Achievement was brought to Calgary, or Southern Alberta. And so when we say Southern Alberta, I mean Red Deer South. So anywhere that's got a 403 area code is a region that Junior Achievement Southern Alberta reaches. Today, we reach 18,000 students annually through multiple programs. So we've got programs for grades 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10 to 12 as well. So this program is for grade 9 students specifically. Junior Achievement programs are actually offered in 121 countries around the world. So I know some of you maybe have a job where it might require you to transfer or move somewhere. So if you do, look for us. We're everywhere. All right. So training materials. These are materials that we'll be either going through or you'll be able to access either now or after the meeting. It depends on how you've got it set up. So we've got the program guide for teachers and volunteers. This is your book that I just shared or that you might have with you physically. There's also a student workbook, which is the book that the students will get that day. Tent cards, I don't have those shared. A couple of us have them in the room here just so that I can see who has which name. These are something that you'll also have in the classroom, which is kind of a little way for you to identify the student. Icebreakers and teaching tips form, you guys will have one of those. You'll also have a personalities and classroom sheet, delivery agenda, and school information information. By school information, we really mean actually MRU information. That'll be on a different sheet there, and then also program supply list. So that'll be a list that shows you all of the materials that we have for MRU or for you during your class. All right. So understanding roles. A lot of volunteers get a little bit worked up. They're like, oh my gosh, I'm going into the classroom. Do I have to maintain the discipline and order in the class? Not necessarily. As the volunteer, you're a role model as well as an experienced resource. You're going to be able to take the experiences that you guys have had during your lives and during your careers and bring it into the classroom. You're also going to be facilitating our programs, which makes you a facilitator. We give you all of the material and all the beef for your programs. You are welcome to add to it all your personal experiences, and that's what makes our programs really special, as well as a motivator. So you're going to be able to motivate the students through the activities and the games and the lessons that we have for the students. So the teacher, there will be a teacher in the classroom with you, and because we're at MRU, there might be an extra parent teacher or extra chaperone around in the classroom as well, because it's a field trip for those students. So there will be a teacher in the class at all times that does know those students, as well as maybe an extra, depending. And so those people and that person will support your efforts, and they'll also maintain the order and the discipline in the class. You're finding that your class is really, they're really chatty, or they're not really focusing, or not, behaving properly. The teacher will manage that situation for you. I'll give you a couple of little tips and tricks and stuff that we can do as well that you'll see on the personalities and classroom sheet later. And the teacher, of course, will introduce you to the students. You'll have a moment to talk to him or her when you get to the school, or when they get to the school that day. So you can, just chat with them, and I'll explain why that's important in a little bit. Talk a little bit about JA volunteer conduct. Of course, we want you guys to dress appropriately. Not only are you representing your organization or yourself, you're also representing junior achievement. So dressing in a way that's appropriate is important, and also making sure that you're wearing clothes that are comfortable, especially high heels. Guys, I know it's really tough, but we really want to make sure that you leave your high heels at home that day, because if you're standing in heels all day long, I'm sure you All right. Use appropriate language. Of course, I know you guys aren't going to go in the classroom and drop an F-bomb or swear or anything like that. But remember that these students are in grade 9, so they're about 14 years old. They may be 15, and they don't quite maybe understand all the vocabulary that you could potentially use. So keep that in mind while you're in the class. Value and respect diversity. Everybody has different viewpoints, different opinions, so we always just want to be respectful and mindful of that. Avoid physical, never make decisions on your own. Sorry, I skipped one. This sounds a little bit obvious. You're like, well, I'm not going to give them my business card and then go meet them for coffee later. That would just be a little bit weird. I don't know why I would do that. Of course, you're not. But what I mean is sometimes the students will get really excited about the content or what it is that you're teaching them, and they'll want to ask you questions. And you might find that suddenly
Rebecca,
yeah.
Your voice is coming across as muffled sometimes, and there's still quite a bit of background noise. So sometimes it's difficult to hear you. So maybe if you speak slower, or stop shuffling papers. I don't know who's shuffling the papers, but it's making it difficult to hear you. Thanks.
Okay. I'm not sure where the shuffling is coming from, but it could just be my headset. So I'll try to stay still. Can you guys hear me okay now?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
Can you mute everybody?
I have muted a couple that I've noticed had been they were getting a lot of sound coming in. I think you would have the ability. I could try. I think you might also have to mute them on your end, but I'm just going to mute everybody. The only thing, though, is I'm worried if you guys wanted to speak, is you wouldn't necessarily be able to. So, yeah. Okay. One of the suggestions here was just put something in the chat if you want to say something. All right. Oh, could be that. Yeah. All right. Where was that? No, I forgot. time. Oh, never meeting with the students on your own, of course. So this is important. We want to make sure that you guys are, just if you're having a conversation with the student and they're asking you some questions, that you're making sure not to be alone and just maybe take that conversation somewhere where there's more people hanging out. All right, the next one is avoid physical contact. So we say hand-to-hand contact, so fist bumps, high fives, and handshakes. Those things are all okay, but anything after that is a little bit, it's not appropriate, so we just don't need to be doing that or touching any shoulders or anything other than hand-to-hand contact is okay. Uphold laws, of course, you guys are going to do that in the classroom, I have no doubt. And the last one is do not use the volunteering experience to sell, endorse, or solicit business from teachers, volunteers, students, unless the contact is first initiated by them. This is an excellent marketing and networking opportunity for you and your organization. But we try to do our best to recognize our sponsoring organizations during that day. And if you're an independent volunteer not part of one of those organizations, then absolutely you can, have like a pin or something that represents that that's where you're from, but don't go out of your way to sell anything to the students. Alrighty. So moving on. This is a group exercise that I would do if I had a room of students or trainees, and we would all get up and move around. But in this case, because we're all attending by webinar, we'll do a little bit modified version of this. But I do want you to understand how you could potentially make this work in your classroom. So the exercise, we call it walk the line. And basically what we do is we have a question that we pose, and we can pose it to a group such as yourselves, or we can pose it to a group such as your classroom that you'll be in. And it can have an answer that could be a range of things. So in this case, if it was public speaking in the classroom, we could have anybody who's really comfortable and they're not really nervous and they're really comfortable speaking in front of the classroom at one side of the room, and then as we move down to the other end, about halfway through, we'd have somebody who's maybe, I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm not totally terrified. I think that I can do this. And then I usually say at the very far end of the scale is I'm totally terrified and don't know why I signed up to do this. So that's one scale that you could use, or one question. The other question that I find to be related to the Economics for Success program is, who budgets their money, or do you budget your money? And so we can ask the students, if you budget your money and you're on it and you think about it all the time at one side, and then I budget my money but I don't really take care of it, or I'm not really interested in it in the middle. And then anybody who's like, I don't even know what a budget is, I don't budget at all, I don't know what that means, can be at the other far end of the room. So then it gives you an idea of where your class is at. So in this case, what I'll do is ask a few of you if you want to share maybe how you feel about public speaking in the classroom, whether you be in the room or by a webinar, so that we can I can get a gauge of where you guys are at, so I know where I can focus my efforts. Does anybody here want to start? Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So Morgan just said that she's a little bit nervous because she's hasn't really taught kids before, and so she's not really sure, and that you don't really know the content as well. Is that the other thing? Yeah. Yeah, and new to the program. Yeah, and so that's probably a way that a lot of you might be feeling, because if you don't know the content, of course, how are you going to be comfortable? I always say if you know what you're doing, it's going to be, you know what you're saying when you're teaching, it's going to be a lot easier. So my goal today is to get you all familiar with the program and how it goes and how it progresses through, and then your job is to figure out what things you want to add of your own to it, so that you're making it your own. So you'll be more comfortable, and it'll be yours to facilitate. So, all right. Does anybody on the webinar want to add in on this? How do you feel about public speaking in the classroom? All right, that's okay. We're going to move on to the next activity. So it's probably been a long time since a lot of us have been in a middle school or junior high classroom. And it's sometimes difficult to remember, well, what was I like as an adolescent? And how did my class react when we had a guest speaker or when we were on a field trip? How did we treat that person? And what would you do as a presenter if there were challenges to combat those? Sort of how you want to think about it. There's a big difference between a substitute teacher and a guest speaker, though, because the substitute teacher is generally coming in and they're trying to teach something that your teacher has left behind for them to try and facilitate, whereas in this case, you're coming in with materials that the students have no idea what you're going to be giving them. They have no idea what they're going to be doing that day, and what we're giving them is really interesting, really engaging, and it's important life skills. They're skills that they're not necessarily going to learn through their social studies class or their language arts class or math or anything like that. It's specifically different than their curriculum that they're currently learning. So that'll help you. Yeah. So just sort of ponder these questions quietly to yourself. You know, what were you like as an adolescent, and sort of think, well, what would I do? And then if any of you wants to share what you were like as an adolescent, I welcome it, absolutely. Right. So, and it's okay if you don't want to share, of course, you don't have to tell us all what you were like. I was a little bit talkative and a little bit, I was kind of a weird student. I was a little bit of a range of really, really quiet and kind of like pulled back, and then I'd be like super, super loud and crazy like the next hour. It was sort of interesting. I think for all of my teachers, I was also one of the talkative students. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up our personalities in the classroom sheet and share that with you, so that we can just have a quick look at the different types of personalities that we're going to find in the class and some tips to manage that type of situation or personality. Sorry, personalities in the classroom and suggestions for classroom management. So I'm just going to talk about 4 of these specifically. The first one is number 5 on the list, and it's called the class clown. And I'm sure some of you are thinking, I was definitely the class clown when I was in school, and that was definitely something that I wasn't. But at one point in grade 2, I thought I'm going to try and be the class clown, and then I didn't live up to it. So I left that dream far behind. Anyways, this student is your frenemy. So what that means is they can be your friend or they can be your enemy. They really control the energy in the classroom. So instead of repeating instructions or stifling that student's energy, you want to take that student's energy and make it positive. Turn it around into something where you can maybe get that student on your side, or do something where you can say like, oh, I like your energy, we're going to have a lot of fun working together today. Something that'll get that student thinking like, oh, this is really cool. All right. Let's see, the other one I wanted to talk about is number 7, and this is a hot topic lately in the media. Number 7 is our bully. If you see anything that happens in the classroom that you think is inappropriate, bullying, it was mean, it was rude, etc., address this with the teacher as soon as possible. We also have a note here not to re-victimize the student, so that would basically mean don't point out what happened in front of the whole classroom, diffuse the situation quietly, but let the teacher know, and he or she will manage it and they will deal with it. So that's not your role. All right. Learning disabled, number 8. We'll talk a little bit more about this in detail, but the student could potentially come across as shy or as a slacker, but really they might have a learning disability. So with those students, we sometimes don't know exactly what's going on. Number 11 is refuses to participate. So speak to the teacher. This may or may not be normal behavior. Some students just don't like to participate as a group, or they're just not feeling welcomed or anything like that in the classroom. So just ask the teacher when in doubt is my golden rule, is ask the teacher when in doubt. All right. You also never know what's going on at home with that student. So, all right, talkative. I'm sure some of you can think, I was the talkative one in my class. Lisa Glenn? Yeah. I'm thinking, yeah. So anyways, there will be, usually every class has a little group where they just can't stop talking. They all just want to chitter at each other, or they want to say something, or they're, you know, and sometimes you might find that what they're sharing is the content in the books. They're like, they flipped ahead and they're like, oh my gosh, look what we're going to do next, or look what we're going to do later, and that'll get them excited. Or they could just be talking about something completely unrelated. Maybe they were out camping the weekend before and they wanted to share all their experiences with their friends. Who knows? You may have to split a group up if that happens. My suggestion, though, is move closer to that group, whether you're the person leading the lesson or you're the person, if you have partners, of course. So if you're the person not leading the lesson, you can stand closer to that group, or even if you are and you're comfortable enough to move around in the classroom, then absolutely move over to that group, and you'll find that the chatter starts to die down a little bit. If it continues, or if you find that it's excessive or inappropriate, bring the teacher in and he or she can mitigate that situation for you. So, all right. So talk a little bit about students with special needs. You'll find that these students are often integrated into regular classroom settings, especially with the Economics for Success at MRU event, because the students are coming in and their classrooms and their classes are they might be in a little bit different class than they're used to, depending on their school style. And you might have these students integrated into your classroom instead of them making a separate knowledge and employability or class with special needs students. It really depends on the school. Some of them will be bringing knowledge and employability or paced learning program students to the school. So these are just students that are, it's a group that's specifically designed to meet their special needs. So they're enrolled in classes that meet their highest level of education. So that means, like, if they're the age of a grade 10 or 11 student but they learn at the grade 9 level, then they're going to be in a grade 9 class. So it might just be that their learning is slowed down. If you would like to participate in one of these classes, let me know. Absolutely. I had a group of one of these students in January, and I never had so much fun in my life. They were so cool. They just loved this program because it really gives them the life skills that they need, and that's really important to them. But if you find that you have students with special needs in your class, they might have an extra teacher in the class that specifically manages that student. They might have a student buddy or extra teacher attention. It really depends on the severity of their need or what exactly it is. So you might just have to explain things a little bit more to the student to spend a little bit more time with them. But usually the teacher, extra teacher, or student buddy will help with this as well. So nothing to be concerned about for sure, but we just like to mention it. All right. So the EFS program goal, like I said, it's 10:30, actually we're ahead of time, which is good. All right, so the program goal for the Economics for Success program is to encourage students to reflect on, of course, the advantages of remaining in school. And that is very important because they need to have the knowledge, attitudes, and skills in order to go on to maybe post-secondary or onto their careers, depending on what it is that they're planning to do. We also teach them to budget, so financial constraints of living independently. Sometimes the students may have to move out sooner than they think, and so they have to start to learn that stuff. Or they might think, oh, I just want to move out like it's so easy, and it's not. So we'll get to show them, give them kind of a reality check. And then, of course, career planning, role models, and goal setting. We also want to impart on them the importance of what we call lifelong learning. So learning skills throughout your life, and maybe even going back and reevaluating your career at some point. And some of you may have already done that, and if you have, that's great. You can share that with the students at some point during this lesson. All right. And each year, JA of Southern Alberta, we do partner with MRU. This is actually our 21st year of Economics for Success at MRU. So we're looking forward to the 21st year and we're going on from there. So I am going to share with you our PowerPoint that you will be using in school that day. So if you guys just want to give me one quick second. If you need to get up and grab a coffee, it's only going to take me, it'll probably take me about 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes to get this started up. So if you want to take that time right now, you can. Okay, so for those of you following along with the webinar, you will see the JA Economics for Success PowerPoint here. Anybody who's not necessarily following along, if you are on your computer or at your computer, you can potentially get our PowerPoint online. The only thing is I only have it hosted through Dropbox, so you may or may not be able to actually open it, but if you go on to our Junior Achievement of Southern Alberta website, so it's jasouthalberta.org, and then there's a tab there, it says Volunteers with an S, and then you're going to see Program Resources. There's going to be a link there to download the Grade 9 Economics for Success PowerPoint or program materials, and that'll take you to a spot where you'll be able to see the PowerPoint if Dropbox isn't disabled on your computers. All right. So I'm just going to jump right into the program. Again, those of you who don't have the books, you should be able to go through with the PowerPoints. And I will be going through and I'll be telling you with the book and the PowerPoint. So if you have one or the other, you will be okay either way. So they both follow along with each other. One is just a visual aid that we use for the students. Okay. So looks a lot like the other one. I'm just going to wait, or actually no, it looks like there's a couple missing. I think we should be okay though for the first little bit. The first couple lessons are very simple, so if I'm missing anybody, all right. Another note, while I'm on full screen, I can't necessarily, actually, no, I'll turn this on. All right. Perfect. All right. So the first thing you want to do when you get into the classroom with the students is, of course, introduce yourself, introduce what we're going to be doing today or doing that day, and give the students an idea of their agenda for the day. So you will have an agenda that will be specific for your class or for you. that day that will be sent out to you next week. And you'll be able to see when the lunch is. They're supposed to be going on a campus tour, so it's a self-guided tour that the teacher will take them on, and anything like that. So you can share with the students what those things are, and when those times are. It'll help keep them a little bit less fidgety in the classroom. So, all right, so we'll jump right on in. The first lesson is called Dream Your Success, and this is a little bit of self-exploration for the students. So they are going to just learn about themselves. So if you want to turn to page 6 and 7 of your program guide, you'll find that the first activity is getting to know you. Like I said, that's an icebreaker that you're definitely going to want to do with the students first thing. And then if you flip your page over again to 8 and 9 of your program guide, you're going to find Dream Your Success. With core activity 1, choose your success about halfway down that page. You'll also find corresponding pages for this activity on page 2 and 3 of the student's workbook. So we have a slide here. It's got a couple of, or about 6 different famous or presumably successful people. One of those does happen to be Allison Redford, and we talked about it. We decided that we're going to leave her there. It's an interesting conversation for the students, I think, to have if you want to facilitate it about whether or not she is successful. But we also have Sidney Crosby, Ellen DeGeneres, Steve Jobs. The other 2 I'm actually not really sure about because I don't follow along. Dennis Rodman? No? Is that LeBron James? Okay, it's LeBron James. And I'm thinking that's Beyonce. Thank you. Okay. So I'm good with politics, hockey, and technology and comedians, but I'm not very good with basketball players or singers, I guess. All right. So we have these 6 people, and the slide says, are they successful? And just ask the students, like, do you think these people are successful or not? And under Dream Your Success, or Choose Your Success, there's a section there where the students in page 2 can write down what their dreams and their goals are. So what are your dreams? What are your goals? And we've given them some questions here on the slideshow, which are, what do you dream of doing when you finish school? Where do you want to live? What kind of career do you want to have? What lifestyle do you envision? So things that is supposed to help them get thinking about what they want and what they're needing. So what is success? Is another section there at the bottom of page 2 for the students to look through and write, what is success? What does it mean to them? Because for everybody, it's different. So that should take you about 5 or so, maybe 10 minutes for that whole thing. I wouldn't recommend spending more than 8 probably minutes on it. It's not a long activity. Another thing that you might want to tell the students is you're not going to have to share this with the rest of your class. If you want to share, absolutely go ahead, but you're not going to be required to, because sometimes they might feel a little bit shy. They might think, oh, I have to share this with the class, so I'm not going to write down what I really think. So, all right, moving on to core activity 2 in lesson 1 is called Exploring Self-Knowledge. And so the student's workbook corresponding page is number 3, and it's Exploring Self-Knowledge, the Triangle of Me. In the workbook, the students have a triangle. There's also an image of it on the program guide. And it says skills, values, and interests. On the slideshow, we've done it up in gears as well, just to give the students a different visual or a different way to look at it. So we want the students to identify what are their values, what are their skills, and what are their interests. And there's a section on each of those. There's a couple lines for them to write down what that is. It's on page 3 of the student workbook or page 9 of the program guide. Yeah. So if you guys are getting confused, you need help, the student workbook is the one with the picture of the kids on the front. And sometimes I find that that helps me so much because I get confused sometimes. I'm like, which book am I using? So, and then the program guide, of course, is the one with all of the, it's got the descriptions and everything for your lesson. So I definitely recommend reading through this. So. Oh, that's okay. Yeah. So we just had a question in the room, is this PowerPoint going to be the one that we use in MRU? And yes, absolutely it will be. So I like to show it to all of my volunteers before they go into the classroom because it just helps you get a little bit more familiar with what we're doing and how it goes along. Yeah. All right. And like I mentioned before, this is available on our website to download, but if you are having problems finding it, you will be able to email me and I can send you the link. I'll also likely be sending you all a link later today with a recording of this training, as well as where to download all of the materials from. So I've got 2 places that I've got it hosted, so hopefully your firewall can get through one of them, and if not, talk to your whoever is managing the Junior Achievement Program for your organization. All right, so we're going to skip the World of Work activity. So if you flip in your program guide to page 10, you'll see that there's the World of Work, and we're going to skip over that. We don't have time for it. There's a few things that we're going to be skipping. I'll let you know exactly what it is that we skip. Core Activity 3 is the next that we'll do, and it's called the Keys to Success. And this is a game that we provide a game board for, and as well as game pieces and cards. It's similar to the game of life, if anybody remembers that, or how to play the game of life. And it's got one element of Monopoly in the sense that when you pass go, you get to collect things. So it's not money, it's something else. So the goal of the game is for the students to get 2 key cards. Now, anybody who really wants to see the game board who's attending by webinar, let me know. I do have a picture of it that I can share with you. For those of you here in training in person, here it is. Up here. So it's got a blue, thanks Lisa, my Vanna White, it's got a blue circle that says go. And when it says go, it also says take or collect 2 keys. So I have a stack for every group that plays this game, for every game board. I have a stack of key cards. I also have a stack of Opportunity Knocks cards. The instructions for this are on page 11 of the program guide. So they're also on the game board itself, so the students will be able to figure out what they're doing. Now, you're wondering, what are these key cards for? What are they? So they get 2 of them to start with, and the goal is for them to get 4. So as they move along on the game board, they're going to land on spots that have a green square and they have a picture of a key. If they land on a spot that's got a picture of a key on it, their friend or group mate, so they'll be playing this in groups, is going to pick up the key for that person. So you don't want them to pick up their own key because there's a question and an answer on the back of the key. So, for example, this one that I've got in my hand right now is true or false. If you can't afford to go to college or university, you can apply for programs where the government may loan money for education. And that one is true, absolutely. So if the student answers true for that and they get the question right, they get to keep the card. So then they would have 3 key cards because they started with 2. If they get the question wrong, they do not get to keep the key card. It goes back into the pile. So they don't get to keep it. And there's all kinds of questions that have to do with career searching, social insurance number, things like that, that the students collectively as a class, the whole class should know these things, but maybe not every student knows everything. So they'll be able to get through this. The other thing that we have are scenario cards or Opportunity Knocks cards. So on the slideshow here, it says, as you move along the board, you'll be prompted to pick up Opportunity Knocks cards. This is a pink square. It says the word Opportunity Knocks. If you do land on one of these spots, you can pick up this card, or the student can pick up this card and read it themselves. There's not a question or answer or anything on it. It's just a scenario. So this one that I've got in my hand says, your friends say you can make anyone laugh. The Children's Theater is looking for volunteers to act in a new comedy, so you go to the audition. So that is a seized opportunity, so it's a good thing. So they get to go ahead 2 spaces. We also have some opportunities where it's a missed opportunity, or they've done something poor and they are going to have to go back a couple spaces. So for example, I have one here. It says you get caught giving your friends a free milkshake at the burger place where you work. The manager fires you. So that is a missed opportunity, and the card says that they have to go back 3 spaces. So they're going to quickly realize that, okay, well, you know, if I do things that are maybe illegal or not necessarily ethical or not right, or I don't follow through on my commitments, then there's negative consequences. But if I do things to help better myself or better others, then those are seized opportunities. So they have positive consequences. So the goal, like I said, is for them to get 4 keys. Now, like I mentioned previously or alluded to, you'll be splitting the students up into groups at this point. So it might be a good idea to write in your workbook 6 groups. If you have more than 30 students in your class, you will find that you have 7 sets of games and 7 sets of key cards and 7 sets of game pieces with dice. That is because we don't want the groups to get too big, so if you feel like you want to or feel like you need to, you can make 7 groups instead of 6. I do that for groups that are bigger than 30. There's not a lot of them. I think there's probably about 20 classes total out of 140 coming that are more than 30. So, but if you do happen to have one of those. All right. So, does anybody have questions about the game? Does it seem pretty straightforward? Yeah, it's a game. The kids love it. Students love it. Sorry, don't necessarily call them kids. They do that sometimes, and I feel bad for them. But they love this game. It's first thing in the morning. It's the first lesson, and it's like the third thing that you do with them is play a game. And they're like, okay, this person is so cool. It really gets them on your side. So it's excellent. All right, last activity for lesson 1 is called discussion. You guys will notice a trend as we go through that there is a discussion question or discussion questions at the end of every lesson. So there isn't a corresponding page in the student's book for any of the discussions. It's just a questions that you've got in your book. Now, with these discussion questions, we have picked our 3 favorites, but you can ask any of the other ones that are there if you feel like they were relevant, or if you want to come up with your own questions or own things that maybe you want to ask them, or if you come up with it on the fly, that's okay. You don't have to, you're not bound to these questions. They're just a suggestion. So the things that we're asking them are, why is it important to think about the future? What can you be doing yourself now to help yourself achieve success? Things like that. So again, it's called Economics for Success. So we want them to be successful. All right, lesson 2. This is the lesson that people will take home and students will take home. And we actually have a girl in the office here who did this program in grade 9, which was more than 10 years ago. And she remembers this still to this day. So we were going through the activities and the lessons because she was just refreshing on it. She's like, oh my gosh, I think I did this in grade 9. I definitely did this. I remember doing this. And then she told me that she actually used some of the concepts in her planning when she moved out of school to go to university. So pretty cool. So you guys are going to really enjoy this lesson. So the first activity in lesson 2 is the extended activity called Guess the Price. We are doing this extended activity. It's rare that we do. We only do a couple of them. So in this case, we are doing the extended activity, Guess the Price. The instructions for this are on page 12, but we have created a web app for this program. So on the slideshow, there's a big square here. It says Guess That Price. Click anywhere in this square. It's going to bring you to a website. I'm just going to make sure that you guys are able to see the website here. Give me 1 second. There it is. All right. So you should be seeing The Price is Right currently. So how much is peanut butter? And so you'll see on the left-hand side it says Team 1. The right-hand side says Team 2. You will have a computer, mouse, monitor, etc., and projector at MRU, so you will be able to, based on what the students say, enter in their guesses for how much they think the peanut butter is worth. So in this case, it's a 500 grams. That's organic peanut butter, but you can see in the picture it's President's Choice. So it might not be as expensive as maybe some of you are thinking it could be. So with Team 1 and Team 2, you want to just split the class down the middle. Usually that's the best way to do it because you just want to do it quickly. You don't need to be moving them around and setting them up into a brand new the setup. Just split them down the middle and say, you're team 1, you're team 2. This is the way that it works. So let's go. I'm just going to use this room here, and I just want to show you guys how this works. So I just clicked in that little gray box. Let's use this side. You guys are going to be team 1, and then I'll join you guys, and you can be team 2. Okay? So how much do you guys think that 500 grams of peanut butter is worth? Organic peanut butter. Okay. How much? 4 even? Okay, so they think it's $4 even. All right, and then you guys. Yeah. I'd say how much? What do you guys think? 5? 6? Okay. I'm just gonna give you guys $5.50, okay? Halfway through. So sometimes you might have to come to an agreement about halfway through on what they've decided they want it to be or what they want the price to be. I can tell you now that team 1 is closest. It's $4.19. Because it's President's Choice, I always have to mention that it's a little less than you guys think it might be, but yes, it's organic. It's also not the biggest jar. It's only the little one, so. All right, then you would have the opportunity to click next. Then we have things like milk. We've got things like romaine lettuce, how much that costs. And then we go into things like TVs, couches, rec passes. So for the YMCA rec passes, we talk to the students, or we want to get them to find out how much they think this stuff costs. These are things that their parents buy on either a daily, monthly, or yearly basis, or have bought previously. So it's good for them to know how much this stuff really actually costs, because this will lead us into the next activity. So they enjoy this game. It's a lot of fun, and just go through. I think there's about 8 to 10 different items. All right, so we'll go back to the presentation. Perfect. And just go on to the next slide. So moving day. This is core activity number 1 for lesson 2. And it's called Moving Day. The instructions are on page 13 of the program guide, and page 6 and 7 of the students' workbook is the page that they'll be working off of. So we're going to tell the students that they are moving out on their own. They are living independently. They have no help from their parents. They are old enough to drive a car. It's implied that they're old enough to drive a car. And they can live with roommates so long as they each have their own room. We can't have, 5 of them staying in one bedroom, of course. So page 8 and 9 of the, or 6 and 7, sorry, of the students' workbook, you're going to see that they have a bunch of different categories that they need to estimate their monthly amount, how much they're going to spend. So food, how much are they going to spend? Only 1 person per bedroom, of course, for rent. So for rent, you're wondering, okay, well, where do we find this information? If you are using if you have the student workbook with you or in front of you, flip it over to page 8. That's the student workbook. You'll see on page 8, there are newspaper clippings. Now, where in Calgary can you get a 1-bedroom balcony condo or apartment for $400 a month plus utilities with secure parking? Nowhere. Exactly. So what I'd like to point out to everybody is that these are advertisements or average across Canada. Our books come from Junior Achievement of Canada, so they're also a little bit outdated and old. So if you want to, you are more than welcome to go on to Kijiji, RentFaster, or wherever else you would look for a rental property and maybe print out a couple of those and bring them along with you if you like. You don't have to. You can also, because you'll have access to the internet that day at MRU, you can also go away from this and bring up rentfaster.ca or Kijiji and look at what things are worth with the students. If you want to stick with what's in the book, that's okay. Just make sure that you let the students know that these prices are really low, because Calgary definitely has one of the highest. We have the highest, actually, I think, rental market or cost per rent in Canada. So it's quite high. I think we compete with Toronto and Vancouver for that. So, all right. utilities, telephone, all this stuff. So you can, they can figure this out and you can go through with them. Another thing that you'll find on this list is transportation. So are they going to buy a car? If they're going to buy a car, there's information for this on page 9. I find that this information is okay. It's not too out of date. It's pretty normal if you're going to buy a new car or a used car, and then it depends if they're male or female. The insurance prices are going to be higher or lower based on their gender because of their age. So this is page 9. So that's where they can flip to look if they're going to buy a car or have a car. The other option, of course, is public transportation, or they're going to walk. So they can choose what they're going to do. So have them go through their budget and work with them through this. It's a good idea to walk around the room and sort of help each of them as they go through, or each group, sort of each area. Once you've finished that, we get to the fun part. So they've come up with their budget. It's probably extravagant. If they're boys, it's probably not so extravagant. If they're girls, we find that girls are a little bit more sensible. And we're going to move on to core activity number 2, which is called Payday. It's on page 14 of the program guide. We're not quite done with the budget yet, though. So we're going to come back to that in a minute. So I have 9 different job cards or job papers that we have that we can assign to the students. Now, 6 of them are jobs that the students would be able to do or presumably be able to do without finishing high school, or some of them are after they've finished high school. It just sort of depends on exactly what it is, but they're not the highest paying jobs. One of them is $400 a month. Other ones, they go up to about $1,400, about $1,000. And then the highest one is actually a painter's job. And that one, it's presumed that they would have finished their high school with this one, but it's about $2,000-ish a month. Each of the jobs also shows all of the deductions that would come off of a regular paycheck. So they have their gross pay and then their deductions and then their net pay at the end. So we want to show them that difference. So while, yes, okay, you're making, however much an hour, you have all of the, income tax deductions, and some of the jobs have different things, like they have to buy their uniforms, or they have to, this one, for example, has a franchising fee for whatever it happens to be. So they might not be bringing home that much after the end of all of their deductions based on exactly what it is. Now, I have 3 other jobs. Like I said, there was 9 of them. I have jobs 7, 8, and 9. And 7, 8, and 9, these jobs are special. These jobs are all jobs after the student has completed post-secondary. So one is an entry-level job after college, and then, or 2 of them, sorry, are entry-level jobs after college or university. And the other one is an apprenticeship, 4 years, it's a job after their 4 years of apprenticeship training. So I've got one that's a plumber, they make about $3,400. I've got one that's a paralegal, they make about $2,500, and an oil and gas assistant where they're making about $3,500, and that's per month. So on the plumber, for example, they also have to pay their union dues, so it's $30 a month. So there's extra stuff that they have to pay in deductions. So what you want the students to do is, once you've assigned them their job, and of course, like I said, there's 9 jobs, you're thinking, I have 30 students in my class, how do I do this? They'll usually be sitting kind of like groups or areas or pairs or something, just sort of say like, okay, you guys are going to have this job, you guys are going to have this job. There is a place for the students on page 10 of their workbook to write down what job you gave them and how much they're making, so that they don't have to keep that paper with you. So they can copy that information into page 10 of their workbook. So, the moment of truth. Are their monthly living expenses less than their net pay? If it's less than their net pay, good. If it's more than their net pay, well, now they have to go back and redo their budget. They have to make their budget fit within whatever job it is that you've given them. Some of the jobs that they'll be able to do without finishing high school are, you've got like a nanny job. That one's kind of interesting. You have to watch because food's included, so then they don't have to pay for their food necessarily, or they have a smaller food budget. There's other ones where it'll include their benefits. So they'll have to make sure that they're not paying for health and dental insurance unless they want to pay extra to top it up for their other than their employer benefits. So have the students rework their budgets. So there's a section or a second column on the budgets page, which was page 7 and 8, I believe, or 6 and 7, sorry, page 6 and 7, where it says revised monthly amount. That is what this column is for. Now they have to make their budget fit within the job that you gave them. So I also want to leave them with an impression at this point is what might happen in the future that could affect your ability to live within your means. So let's say that they decided they're going to drive a car. What if they get into a car accident? That's going to cost them, you know, their deductible or whatever else. So hopefully they've saved up for that. Or what happened here in Calgary last year is the flooding. Of course, that made a lot of people unable to live within their means because they had to cover costs up front before insurance paid them back, and some of them maybe their insurance didn't help, depending on their situation. So things like that they need to start thinking about. All right, so after all that commotion, we have our discussion. So this is important because you want to ask the students what expenses did you find most surprising? What items did you consider to be necessities and which were luxuries? So you want to find out from them, what did you guys cut out? What did you take away? So did you decide instead of driving a car that you're going to take transportation, public transportation? Or what did you decide to take out of your paycheck? Did you maybe decide to spend a little bit less money on clothing because maybe you don't need the designer hoodies or you don't need the designer shoes? Stuff like that. So, all right. That is lesson 2, and we're going to move on to lesson 3. So there are some extended activities in lesson 2. We are skipping over them, and we're moving straight on to core activity 3, which is the discussion. And if we flip your books over to lesson 3, this will be just after lunch. So lesson 2, the day is designed that hopefully you can get to the end of lesson 2 before lunch. If not, that's okay. Don't worry about it. Lesson 3 and 4 are designed to be facilitated after the lunch break, which is around 11:30 or so. All right. So lesson 3 is discover yourself. Like I mentioned, the students are just coming back off of lunch. I have a gift for you guys, and it's a video. So sometimes this is good for them just when they're coming back from lunch, gets them like, oh, okay, that's really exciting, or that's interesting. And this video goes along with core activity 1 in lesson 3, which is called Trends and Directions. So it's a Did You Know video for 2014. So yes, it's been updated recently. All of the videos for this program are embedded into the PowerPoint. Anybody who has done this program before, you can probably remember that we used to have to click and then it would take you up to YouTube and then who knows what else would come up. So we have embedded our videos for safety, which makes it sometimes a little bit more difficult to share the files. So like I said, if you have problems with it, let me know and I will do my best to get this PowerPoint to you. But it's quite large with the embedded videos. So all you'll have to do, and we won't be watching the videos today, you'll be able to take some time and do that later, is just click here in the Did You Know area or click in where the video is, and it'll play full screen for you immediately. So this video is about 7 minutes long, but it takes them through all of the different trends and directions, so you don't necessarily have to facilitate that discussion on core activity 1, Trends and Directions. There's a bunch of questions there that the book will instruct you to ask the students. I suggest making a note for yourself that there's a video for this lesson. All right. So we move on to employability skills, and this is one of my more favorite activities. I find that it's interesting for the students. This is another one of those self-reflection types of activities. So first you want to identify to the students that these are the skills that are on the PowerPoint that the Conference Board of Canada has identified as critical skills. So we have things like communication, managing information, thinking and solving problems, being responsible, adaptable, teamwork skills such as working with others, and participating in projects and tasks. These are all skills that are important for any employer anywhere. So they're a broad range of skills. So we want to identify with the students what skills they might already have. So using page 11, 12, and 13 of the student's workbook, there's a checklist there. And so the very first thing on that list says if you enjoy playing fast-paced games like laser tag or video games, you could say to an employer that you're observant, react quickly, and work well under pressure. And absolutely, some of you are probably chuckling, thinking, really, video games? I guess so. So anyways, like I said, page 11, 12, and 13, there's a ton of different things that the students will be able to choose from or be able to check off in their book. So they can say to an employer that they are, you know, reliable or trustworthy or any of these things. So give them a couple of minutes to go through this. I always tell them they have to pick at least 4 or 5. You can pick any arbitrary number that you wish that they need to at least select. It's just to get them to go through and do a little bit of self-reflection before we go into the next activity, so they know what skills that they've already got. And they'll find that they actually do have a lot of skills even though they're grade 9. So, all right. Moving on to extended activity in number 3 called Hire This Person. This is under lesson 3, and the instructions for this are in your program guide on the next page after employability skills, which I believe is page 20 of your book. And then the corresponding pages for this in the student's workbook you'll find are pages 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. It's quite a big chunk of the book is dedicated to this activity. And it's because you just need a little bit of extra page space for some of the stuff. So you'll notice if you're looking at the PowerPoint that there's a big black box on this screen. This is actually a video. For some reason it won't show a snapshot of it, but it's a kid snippets video. Who's heard of or seen kid snippets before? Do you guys know what that is? No? Okay. So there's 2 gentlemen, and they have children, and they have their children play or act out a scenario. And so in this case, it's a job interview. And they do it just as a 4 or 5-year-old kid would do. And it's hilarious because then they take the voices or they record the voices of their kids doing this, and then they act it out themselves. So we have adults, full-grown, like adult men, making 5-year-old faces or making 5-year-old sounds in order to see the how a job interview would go. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. They're really cute videos. Like I said, I recommend taking a moment to watch it if you want to look at it right now. For those of you sitting there, YouTube, and it's kid snippets job interview. So you guys should be able to find it. All right. So it's going to start this activity off, which is all surrounded around job interviews. So you can then use your partner, and you and your partner can do a mock interview. I really recommend doing this because you can show the students a bad interview and then a good interview. So on page 18, like I mentioned, there is a checklist of things to do in an interview. So take this list and sort of look at it and go, okay, we're going to make sure that we don't do any of these things in one interview. So like don't even shake the person's hand, do like one of those fist bump things, don't make eye contact with the person, chew gum, do all the things that you're not supposed to do in an interview. And then do an interview where you guys definitely cover off all of the things that you're supposed to do in an interview. So go through and make sure that you have a proper handshake, you sit properly, you answer the questions promptly, you have the skills for the job, etc. You can, of course, be a little bit creative with this if you like. All right. So once we've given them the idea of what a job interview is, or what to do in a job interview, we're going to challenge them to have their own and do their own job interview. So what you'll find in pages of the student workbook are a bunch of scenarios, and I believe it's page 14, 15, and 16. We have 6 different scenarios. So those of you who are keen, you probably caught on. I have 6 different scenarios. We're going to put them in 6 different groups again. So you can put them in totally different groups than they had before, or the same groups. It's completely up to you. This is for still extended activity, hire this person. This activity will take quite a while to do. So assign each group a scenario. And what they're going to do is, or profile, I guess. Sorry, they're not scenarios, they're profiles. And they're all, as a group, going to turn to page 17 of their student workbook and answer those questions based on that profile. So for ease of me explaining this, I'm going to use Harmony as an example. She's one of the scenarios or one of the profiles. She is a student who is interested in flowers, and she wants to look for a job at the flower shop to help out. She's also a member of the Horticultural Society and has had a lot of other experience with flowers and has a lot of knowledge and experience because that's one of her things that she's passionate and interested in. So if you assign this to a group, of course, then they will complete page 17 as it relates to Harmony. Then have each group select somebody in their group to be the interviewer. So that's going to be somebody who asks the interview questions, which I have and you will have in the school or in the class that day. And select somebody in that group to be Harmony or be the person in the profile. So for each profile, there is a set of interview questions that goes along with it. So for Harmony, there's questions like customers will have a lot of questions about the flowers. How are you prepared to handle this? Or tell us what are your future goals or dreams. So there's about 4 questions per scenario. And now this is where you have an option. On the slide, it'll instruct you to perform the interview in front of the whole class. This is really time consuming. If you find that you're running out of time based on your agenda, you can have them do their interviews in their groups. So they can just have the group watch along. As the interviews are being conducted, the rest of the class or the rest of the group, depending on how you choose to do it, will complete the checklist on page 18. So did they do these things in the interview? So that was that checklist I initially referred to when you were doing your own interview. So this is an excellent activity. The students really love it because they get to do a little bit of role playing, and it's a lot of fun sort of after the lunch break before we get into one of the other games that we get to do. So if you have questions about this activity, let me know. Anybody have questions? Seems pretty straightforward. Yeah, awesome. All right. So I'm going to move on. If you do have questions about any of this stuff, of course, feel free to email me or call me. I can help you out. So while the students are, of course, looking at the interviews, there's an interview to-dos. There's a little bit of a chart here that they can see. So it's got good posture, smiling, good eye contact, all that kind of stuff that's on page 18. It's just regurgitated onto our PowerPoint in a manner that's visually pleasing. All right, discussion. So we're going to skip over find and apply. That's the extended activity. And flipping over your page, we're also going to skip ethical dilemmas in the workplace and go to core activity 3, which is our discussion. So basically, once you finish the interviews, discussion questions. And like I said before, you don't have to ask them all these questions. Pick whichever ones you like. All right, so we're going to move on to lesson 4, and we're in the home stretch, which is awesome. So plan your success is lesson 4. Core activity 1 in lesson 4, I have another gift for you guys. It's called Statistically Speaking, and I have another video after this slide. Sorry, I got excited. I got ahead of myself. So first you want to ask the students what are the hot jobs in Alberta, or explain to them that the hot jobs, of course, we have the oil and gas industry, retail is really popular, construction and manufacturing, of course, if you look across the skyline, even from where I'm sitting, I can see a crane. So there's tons of construction. And health and social care. As you know, the baby boomers start to get older, there's definitely a lot of need for health care, and as our population grows, there's more need for social care as well. So, all right, this is the gift I was talking about. We have 2 videos for you in this case. So this is for core activity 1, which is statistically speaking. So it'll take a little bit of that workout again for you, so you don't have to prepare as much for these lessons. I do recommend watching the videos. This specific video here is the Career Cast Best and Worst Jobs of 2013. And the other video that we have is Kiplinger video, and it takes the students through each of the 4 industries that I mentioned before. So healthcare, construction, oil and gas, retail. And I think it might touch on a couple of others. I haven't seen it in a little bit, but it's a great video, and it'll help the students understand sort of what the world is, where we're going with the world, and what they're going to be doing. They say that the students these days, or the students that we're teaching this month or this year in grade 9, the jobs that we have today won't exist in years to come, or the jobs that they're going to be doing don't exist now, is basically what I'm getting at. And that's because the world changes so quickly. I mean, some of our jobs that we're doing maybe didn't exist 10 years ago. So in 10 years when these students are, looking for work, they're probably not going to be doing jobs that exist right now. So, all right, career planning steps. So core activity 2 is career exploration. So you're going to flip over to page 24. We are skipping the extended opportunity there, the debunking the myths. I find if you really are running it, if you really have a lot of time, you can definitely take some time and do this. The only thing is it's not a really interactive or interesting activity for the students to do. It's more just did you know type interesting information. So I definitely recommend skipping that one. But career exploration or career planning steps. In your book and in the student's book, you'll see that it's listed as a bar chart from steps 1 through 6. In our slideshow, we've also listed it, or we've put it up, and it looks like a cycle more than anything. So the steps are, of course, learning about yourself, identifying options, research, making a decision, setting a goal and planning for it, and always reevaluating. Now, what we've done to help you through this is for every step, we've given you a little section on the PowerPoint. So you can go step 1, step 2, and basically just facilitate a discussion with the students and take them through the steps. And you can even add some of your personal experiences and ideas into this if you like. So researching, etc. Setting a goal and planning for it, identifying the steps that you need to achieve the goal, and reevaluating. Of course, like I mentioned earlier when we first started talking about the program, some of you may have already done a reevaluation or decided that you're going to be doing, you're going to try a different career or do something different. So you've done a little bit of lifelong learning, or you've maybe restarted the process again. So, and that is okay to do. We want to sell them on that idea. They're not just going to be doing one career for their entire lives. The trend is now moving more away from that. So, all right. So, if you guys are keen, you'll notice that I've skipped over core activity 3. It's not that we're not doing it, because we are doing it, but we're going to do it at the end. We're going to do it later, at the very end. So, core activity 4, who is my role model? The instructions for this are on page 25, and there's a corresponding page 26 in the student's workbook. You want them to identify a role model, somebody who they admire, and then list the admirable qualities for this person. There's about 5 different lines or 10 different lines there that the students can use their workbook and have a look. Now, setting a goal, there's a section here as well on page 26, and the instructions, again, are on page 25. And you want the students to set one goal that they will accomplish after today. Now, it can be a long-term goal, it can be something that they accomplish tomorrow, it can be something they accomplish this year or in 5 years. We want them to practice setting a goal after they've heard all of the information. And they don't necessarily have to share this page again with the rest of their peers. Sometimes there will be a little bit less apt to do that. All right, who's ready to play a game? I am. So the future trivia game. This is core activity 3. We have definitely taken this game and morphed it into something amazing. It is definitely way easier to play than I'm not sure even how the book explains it, because we haven't done it like that for ages. So, future trivia game. It's played a lot like Jeopardy, looks just like Jeopardy, but we have a couple of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire lifelines, per se. So the lifelines, of course, are asking a friend, asking the class, or asking the teacher. And each student will have one of these lifelines that they can use when it's their turn. So split the class up into 2 teams, so you can see we're either in teams of 2 or 6. There's a trend through this. Now you can split them up, boys and girls. If you have even numbers, you can do 1, 2, 1, 2, or you can just split them down the middle again. It's completely up to you, however you want to do it, or however maybe the teacher wants to do it, and have them stand on opposite sides of the class. And now they're all going to be standing. If you answer the trivia question correctly, so if the student answers the trivia question correctly, they get to stay standing. If not, then they'll sit down. So basically the way that it'll work is they'll go through each student. If they get it right, then they stay standing. If they get it wrong, then they sit down. And there will be some questions. When you get to it, it'll say all play, and that means that their entire team can decide on the answer. So not the class, but the whole team can work together for that. So, all right, this is what the game board looks like. So we've got categories F, U, T, U, R, and E, and we have sections 100 to 900. So of course these are the points if anybody's seen or watched Jeopardy before. So we'll go through a couple of the questions here. So I'm going to have somebody pick a category and a number. What do you guys think? TU for 400. Okay, right in the middle. All right, so the question is list 3 ways to develop your employability skills. He's like, I don't want to answer it. Okay, that's okay. So what you'll do is once you click on the number, it'll bring you to the question, and then click again on that slide anywhere you want, except for return to game board, and it'll bring up the answer in the bottom. So volunteering, skills that you learn in school, work in sports, skills you learn from hobbies, through friends, mentors, etc. So they may or may not get all of these, but if they do, awesome, they get 400 points. Some of these questions are difficult, some of them are really easy, so you'll find. Now, once you're finished, don't click on the slide again, it'll just take you to another question. What you want to do is make sure you click the link that says return to game board. Once you come back, you'll see that the question that you just asked has turned orange, so you know that you've clicked on it, and then if they got the question right, use the whiteboard or the chalkboard. I think almost every class in MRU has a whiteboard. I saw 4 last year that had chalkboards, so hopefully, but keep track of Team 1 and Team 2 of their points that they've got. Okay, so let's go for somebody on this side of the room. What do you guys think? E for 600, okay. So, true or false? It is easy to stay within your budget if you make minimum wage and live on your own. False. Correct. There are lots of costs to living on your own, and a minimum wage job may not pay enough to do this, of course. So that one's one of the easier ones. I do want to show you guys what an all play looks like, and I think that U for 300 is one. Yep. All right. So this one says all play at the top. So the entire team would then get to participate and figure out the answer to this question, which is what does SIN stand for? And we can all figure out that it's social insurance number. So, all right. So basically, you get to play this game until the end with the students. So I'm just going to run you guys quickly through a day at MRU, just so that I give you guys an idea of what we're going to be doing that day. So we'll go back to the webinar software. And so when you guys get to MRU that morning, you guys are going to come up to the 3rd floor of the EA building. I will have maps, and I'll send you guys out all a parking pass. It'll either come to you directly, depending, or it might come to your leader at your organization. You'll be able to get your materials, have breakfast. Note that we do provide breakfast, so you don't necessarily have to go out and go to Denny's before you come. We have breakfast for you. Introduce yourself to the teacher. You'll have an opportunity to do this once the students come into the school, and you'll be able to give the certificates of completion, which are a certificate that we have at the school for the students to take home. Just give those to the teacher. He or she will write the students' names on it and discuss any last-minute questions or concerns. All right, before dismissing the students, so we finished playing our game, or you've gotten to a point where you're like, okay, well, we only have a couple minutes left. So give the students their surveys. There's going to be a stack of surveys included in your program materials, and it'll ask the students questions about the program itself. It'll ask the students, what they thought of you as a volunteer, stuff like that. And that is something that you guys are going to actually be able to review later on as we go upstairs for the volunteer reception afterwards. So we'll do a group photo with all the volunteers from the day, and each volunteer will also email you guys a survey at the end of the event. And of course, you'll be able to take some time. We'll have some snacks and refreshments for you after the event as well. So you'll be able to kick back, relax a little bit, and then go from there. So just a quick map of MRU. This one shows the buildings, all of the buildings on campus. The building that we are in is called EA. All of our classes will be in this building as well as the lunchroom, everything like that. There's a Jugo Juice in this building as well, and I believe there might be a Starbucks. There's definitely one over in one of the other buildings too, if you guys are really needing it, but we will have coffee on site from our caterer. And here is a road map or parking map for MRU. So I have actually received confirmation that we will be parking in lot 7. There was concern earlier that MRU has been approved for their library and lot 7 is the location, so we weren't sure if we were going to be able to park there or not, but we can. And then you can see it's right next to the EA building here, so you guys will be able to do that. I'll send you guys all these maps too so you can see them. Last but not least, connect with us. We like to hear from you. So before I let you guys go, does anybody have any questions specific to the program or MRU, anything like that? Unmute everybody here.
Hear me, Rebecca? Will you be?
Okay, go ahead.
Echo. Would you send us all the materials, especially for those of us who couldn't log on to the webinar?
Yes, I will be sending out a link to everybody who participated.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Okay, thanks. Yeah, I mean, this is great. I mean, I've always attended in person, but it's nice to have this option, especially when I have a I don't want to.
Absolutely. All right.
Rebecca, this is Tanya. Can you hear me?
Yes, Tanya, I can.
Is there a way that we can pick up the materials or get the actual participant guide and
yes.
for the actual training?
Yeah. So what I suggest for everybody to do is email me and let me know if you've got if you need the materials, and what I'll do is I'll courier them out to you.
Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Does anybody else have any questions before I let you guys go? Okay. All right. So I guess that's everything.
Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome.
I just wanted to say thank you. It was really good, and hope everyone has a good Easter.
Awesome. You as well. Yay, long weekend. All right. Good stuff. So, all right, I'm going to be signing off. If you have questions, of course, you can reach me. If you go through our website, you can find my contact information, or you obviously would have my email by now, so you can email me as well. So feel free to contact me if you guys have questions. So thank you so much. All right.
Thanks, Rebecca.